Shalom. It's January the 14th, 2026, a new year. And boy, is this new year ever kicked off in a direction of chaos. Some people that I believe have a degree of reliability and a track record in the prophetic said almost a year ago that late 25 into 26 would be a time of great chaos and trouble and time of confusion. And God knows, boy, are we there? And there's no end in sight. Looks like it may even escalate and get worse and worse. And it's been a while since I've done a video. Part of it is because my computer, the camera and the computer quit working. So I just want to come on and some people have asked some questions, what's going on and what do you see coming, and I just want to address a few things. And I'd say my primary concern is that I could stir some of you to prayer, because in many ways Israel's in great need right now. And I guess it's not something you're going to pick up and read in the media, even though there are some hints in the media. I'll give you one example. There is like 32% of the Jewish population in the country right now are struggling with some kind of mental issues. And when I say mental issues or emotional issues, it's depression, anxiety, fears. We have a good friend here. His wife is a psychologist here in Israel. And they are overwhelmed. They can't deal with all of the people that are coming, many on the verge of breakdown. And a lot of it's because of the war. Most likely, I would say the majority of it's from this war that went on for 2 years. And, the media is trying to give people the impression that Donald Trump stopped this war, and it's not true. There is still armed conflict between Hamas and IDF in Gaza pretty much every day. The massive scale of the conflict that we had months ago has been toned down, thank God. But the truth is the fallout, the consequences of it all is still very much with us. There are multiple thousands of people that were injured physically, with lost arms or legs or fingers, and in some cases, just a number of different kinds of serious injuries and not so serious injuries, many people incapacitated. Many people have lost their source of income. They've lost their jobs after so long. Some of the companies they worked for don't even exist anymore because the economy was hit so bad. But yeah, one of the biggest needs I would say right now is for emotional and mental help from the Lord. Many people are just really struggling. The suicide rate has gone way up for quite some time now. And, it's a nation that God gave us our vision. Way back in the book of Exodus, he called us to be a light to the nations of the earth. And then, thank God, in some ways we still very much are. But in many ways right now, these people that are struggling with these emotional and mental issues need help. They need God's help, because psychiatry just can't fix what God can speak to immediately. And that's one of the things. And I see as a very serious need for prayer. And also, right now, to these last week, 2 weeks, we've had some pretty cold, wet, rainy weather, good conditions to get sick. I'm even wearing a jacket inside because it's pretty cold inside as well as outside. But today, on my heart are these several thousands, tens of thousands of people, Arab people living in Gaza right now, don't have any solid shelter. They're living in tents, and I just pray God provides them with a source of heat and somewhere that they can sleep without being frozen out cold because the weather's not been bad. And God's given me a love for these people. I don't hate them. I hate what they do sometimes, the sinful behavior of wanting to kill, but it's not the majority, I don't believe. I worked with many of these people for years, bringing children from Gaza into Israel for heart surgery. And they're in a place of distress right now with this weather and the lack of decent housing. And so that's another prayer request. And in many ways, not because I want to see ethnic cleansing or nothing like that, but I think it may be good for some of these people to actually find a better place to live for the coming season, because much of their housing has been destroyed, and long term they need something, a better situation than tents. So I just pray then that we will lift them up in prayer as well, that God would change their hearts, open their eyes to Yeshua. And I believe many are starting to wake up to the reality that Islam is a satanic, evil kind of religion and just puts people in bondage. And in general, people are asking, how do we prepare for the times that are coming? We can see the economic crisis is growing. Cost of food is just skyrocketing everywhere, all over the world, including Israel. And what do we do for the crisis that's coming? Do we store up food? Do we try and have a storehouse of food? And I would say, don't let fear rule. And as far as if we're coming into a time of crisis, and I shouldn't say if, I know we are. I don't know how quickly or how slowly. But the truth is like war and bad weather. If that's the source of the crisis, and both of those things are potentials, then in almost every case, you would end up fleeing where you normally live. So having a great big stockpile of food isn't necessarily going to change your circumstances. You're going to have to flee from those areas. I would say the greatest preparation we can make right now, and for the rest of our lives, is to come to that place and obey what Yeshua said. He said, if anyone desires to follow me, let them deny themselves and take up their cross, which is an implement of death. It's putting aside, putting away the things and the influences of this world so that we can get our eyes fixed on Him, the one that truly loves us, and the only one that can truly heal us and protect us and keep us and guide us. And it's in that relationship with Him that we'll have the capacity to know where we need to go, what we need to be doing, or where we need to be staying. And one of the things, I have some Iranian friends living here in Israel that have come to faith and married Israelis. And I've been hearing quite a bit from them and through the media about what's happening in Iran. And I know that Iran and Israel are not finished. Matter of fact, I believe there's a very serious yet coming confrontation. Whether America will be involved this next time, I don't know. But I know Israel has not finished business with Iran. And even when Israel is finished in this next conflict that's on the agenda, it's on the horizon, we see something in Ezekiel. It talks about how there will be a marching army from several nations, including Persia or Iran, that will march against Israel. And many people right now are saying they're cheering and hoping, even though 12,000 civilians that have been out protesting have been murdered already, have been killed. 12,000. What kind of leadership is it that just stands there with machine guns and mows down and kills their own citizens? They desperately need our prayer. This leadership needs our prayer that they will stop this wicked, evil behavior and turn from this crazy religion, Shia Islam, to the only true God, Yeshua. And pray for these people in Iran because they're suffering under this regime. Even though the regime has been a terror state for years, I would say the majority of Iranians love Israel and vice versa. We do not see Iran, the people of Iran, as an enemy of Israel at all. But this wicked Islamic Shia leadership there, the Ayatollahs, or I told you how many, is the way a friend of mine used to call Ayatollah Khomeini. These men need a radical encounter with God before it's too late, and for some of them, it's almost the place where it's too late. And so Iran desperately needs our prayer, the people of Iran, so that they're sheltered from this evil attack from their leadership. The ones that should be fostering them in security and keeping them safe and healthy are actually killing them, and killing them viciously and at such a pace. In just a couple of days, the death toll we hear in Israel has gone over 12,000 in Iran. And the other thing that's kind of disappeared from the limelight, but definitely is not over, and that is Gaza. There is a globalist agenda that's underway. Gaza, regardless of what people think about Gaza and what should be done with it, Gaza is a part of God's inheritance. It's his land. Gaza is a very intricate part of the tribe of Judah. And God calls that land his own. And Donald Trump's agenda and plan, his 20-point plan, is about to go into phase 2 this month, where they're going to bring in foreign troops and foreign people to begin to rule this piece of land, which belongs to Israel. They're going to take sovereign possession of it. And Israel has already voted to surrender it under this pressure. I don't know what kind of pressure and how much cooperation is coming from our leadership. Our leadership's also going to bring Israel into great judgment, just as the nations that are dividing the land right now, Joel, Daniel, talks about, and also in Revelation, talks about this land being divided and how God's going to judge the peoples and the nations that brought it about. And some nations, depending on how they deal with Jerusalem, Could be the end of those nations, Zechariah 12:9. And I'll tell you how do we pray for the leadership of Israel? I think is very important to understand. A lot of people see Benjamin Netanyahu as a great leader for the state of Israel. I disagree. He has no biblical vision for this land at all. He's a very secular political man, that something like Trump, where he's willing to say goodbye to Gaza. This might buy us some peace. It's not the heart of God. I know he's not a believer, and some people are exaggerating when they say, oh, he knows Jesus. No, he doesn't. Not at all. And he says himself that he studies the Bible, but I'm concerned that the purpose for studying the Bible is not to find good in there, but it's to find ways of actually doing the opposite. And you can see it in his actions. But this is not anything towards him personally right now. But what we need is a leadership in this land that has a biblical vision for this land and for the people. Because this land and this people are God's inheritance. It's God's vision. It's God's domain. And God puts people in power, and he takes them out of power. And right now we have a leadership here that's more than willing to surrender this land and let foreign troops come in and take over. And some of these troops that want to come in, like Turkey, are some of Israel's most dangerous enemies that exist on earth. And now there's a possibility they could be part of the police force or the military force that will actually be in Gaza. And we've got to pray against it. We've got to pray that God will raise up leadership that love this land, that understand the covenants of God with this land and with his people. And, once that happens, you're going to see something. There was a move in October to annex Judea and Samaria. And the vice president was here actually when the vote took place, and he called us stupid. And I felt like saying, bye, get on your airplane, go back home. But why? He has zero, just like our prime minister, he has zero vision for this land and for God's plan and purposes for this land. God's plan for this land is merely in its early stages. He plans on bringing millions of Jewish people back to this land. I believe also along with maybe even millions of Gentile believers in Yeshua that have become part of the household of Israel. You can see that in Ephesians chapter 2. It's very clear. In Romans 11. So it's time to pray that God would bring in a leadership, either change the hearts of the existing ones or bring in a new leadership that has a vision and a destination for this land and this people that lines up with God's plan. All this nonsense and New World Order kinds of influence that actually influences most of our politicians here in Israel has got to change. It's got to stop. And so I know right now that not one of us can change our hearts, but God can. And I know what I'm speaking to you is God's will, that the hearts of our leaders here in Israel, maybe it will start a trend that will start to be domino effect into the nations. But we need a leadership that actually loves this land the way God does and loves these people the way God does. because things will change radically. And for the doors for the Jewish people around the world to come, there are so many restrictions that the religious parties are trying to put in place, which are illegal. They're not in the law of return, but they've been doing all these things for years, stopping the people that want to come back home and trying to reserve it for a place where only ultra-Orthodox Jews live. And that's not scriptural, and it's not the law of return either. So I don't want to take this too much further, but I just wanted to say hello and tell you that Linda and I are alive and well, and thank God. My heart's been acting up a wee bit lately, but trusting God it's going to come back into order. But pray these things that Iran and Gaza and the mental health issues and what's about to happen in Gaza, I believe is going to be the beginning of a great disaster, both for Israel and America and the nations that are participating in the division of Israel. We need to start stirring up prayer, even fasting of prayer. And because it's critical, what happens here in Israel will affect the whole world. And it's time, I watch several of these little blog guys, and all they can keep saying is, oh, the rapture is going to happen any minute now, so we don't really have to worry about all these crises that are on the earth and in Israel and how they're growing and how they're threatening so much of the stability. And they're all just, I'll tell you, when I don't believe in a pre-trib rapture, but that's not an issue, and I don't want to get into an argument over that with anybody. It'll happen when it happens. But in the meantime, our focus has got to be on joining our hearts with God, knowing, like the sons of Issachar, knowing the times that Israel's in and what Israel ought to do. It comes from a relationship with God. And since we're born again and He lives inside of us, that what do you call that transaction of knowing the heart of God is now, it's not an impossibility. It's not just reserved for one tribe of Israel. It's all of us that have been filled with His Holy Spirit can hear and know His will and then pray it back to Him. And we're going to see things change in this world. So thank you, and hope to see you again soon. Shalom, shalom, from His throne to your home.